So, what exactly is a turntablist and what is turntablism? Well, according to the Wikipedia entry, turntablism is the art of manipulating sound and creating new music, sound effects, mixes, and other creative sounds and beats, typically by using two or more turntables and a crossfader equipped DJ mixer. The person who coined it says that it's used to distinguish the difference between a DJ who just plays records and one who performs by touching and moving the record's stylus and mixer to manipulate sound. So a DJ is just one who mixes music, and a turntablist is one who can manipulate the music via scratching, beat juggling, and use the decks as a musical instrument to create a performance. It's pretty much agreed upon that it's an advancement in the hip-hop style of DJing, and anyone who can scratch, beat juggle, or competes in the DJ battles like 3-Style and DMC are all turntablists. So here's a little question that might bring up some disagreement on the answer. Does turntablism include everyone who can scratch and juggle on any DJ gear? Or is it exclusive to turntable users only? And by any DJ gear, I mean, if you can scratch, juggle, and battle using CDJs or a DJ controller or an all-in-one system, does that make you a turntablist? Or should it be technical and you should be called a DJist or controllerist or an all-in-oneist, AIOist? And I know not everyone is going to have the same answer, and there's people who are going to be technical about it. It's in the name. Turntablist. Well, what about the term DJ? Are you really jockeying some discs? Are you really putting a needle on the record anymore? Are you using real records, or is that a timecode vinyl? Maybe a jog wheel or a moving platter might count as a disc. What if you're using DJ gear that doesn't have anything around? Or are we going to start counting hard disk or solid state disk as the way to say we're DJing? Now, while there are some disagreements as well to this term, I think that the general consensus is that if you're playing pre-recorded music to an audience, that's what a DJ is. It's defined by the act of playing music to an audience. It's not defined by the medium, despite it being in the name, disc. So does that apply to turntablism? Does it have to be just the turntable? Now, I'm not saying that there is a definitive answer. I think the answer to this is subjective, but I thought it would be interesting to actually ask one of the people who coined the term turntablist. Earlier today, I was watching DJ Cova's show, Tweak Music Tips. It's a Twitch talk show that talks about the subjects of DJing and producing music. It's a really, really good show. I'll leave the link above. They have a lot of guests, and if you're into the topic of DJing and production, that's the show to definitely catch. So on his show, he had two renowned turntablists on from the Beat Junkies, Melo D and DJ Babu. Back in the 90s, DMC was not the only DJ competition going on. There was the Vestex competition, ITF, and both of these guys have taken home championships. Babu, he's the DJ for the hip-hop group Dilated Peoples, and he's the one that coined the term turntablist, made it popular. And just to put in perspective how far back I've known of this guy, 22 years ago, I learned how to scratch using his records that he produced, Super Ducks. So I figured these two would be the best people to ask that question I had. So here's the clip.
We got a great question. Shout out to Pre-Young Johnny. I'm sorry I missed your question earlier. Shout out to Pre-Young Johnny. He said he was actually on the show on Friday. He says, ask Babu and Melo, in your opinion, does turntablism include all the folks who can cut and juggle on any gear? Or is it just exclusive to turntable user only?
I feel like, I don't think, any of us can give a definitive answer. I really think it's in the eye of the beholder, and I think that the root of turntablism is, taking pre-recorded, music and remanipulating it to create something new, and And I don't want to limit that to a turntable personally, man. You know, I think it's about the art of touching and manipulating sound. So we have so much dope technology that allows us to do that. So, I tend to think that, it's still turntablism if it comes from the thought of taking, it's kind of like mosaic art. You're going to take, a part of this thing and recreate it and take it out of context and give it a whole new life. And, if you're doing that through using a CDJ or a controller, I'm with it. I guess technically you'd have to call it CDJism or controllerism if you wanted to like be really technical about it. But I think what's really important is just the beauty of taking something that exists in its own right and remanipulating to the point that it becomes something new and original that you created. So and what's homie's name who asked that question, Cova?
Young Johnny. He's actually he's a champ. Tell us what you want. He's actually a Pioneer rep too. He does all the dope stuff for Pioneer. Really.
Is it Pre? Are you doing those tutorials I've seen on YouTube?
Correct. That's Young Johnny. Yep.
Young. I want to shout you out, man, because I've actually seen your tutorials, and I appreciate you shouting out me and my guys. You give a lot of shouts out to the Beat Junkies and the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound and BeatJunkies.tv, and always appreciate you recognizing, man. Good to meet you virtually.
Shout out to him. What about you, Melo? What do you think?
I'm going to go back to the 90s. Again, Babu is the one that coined that term, turntablist. And Babs, jump in here, correct me if I'm wrong. But, at the time, the spirit of what a lot of us DJs were doing was that, we were looking to make music using one or two turntables. And so I believe the inspiration for Babu using that term, the turntablist, on one of his classic mixtapes was that, in the same spirit that a guitar plays his guitar, as a musician, treats his guitar like an instrument, we treat the turntables like an instrument. So at the time, because there was no CDJs or any technology like that, I want to say to be a turntablist, you had to be using actual turntables because the turntable was your instrument. But now, however, obviously, there are other mediums and other forms of technology that you can use to pretty much mimic or, do any technique that you want. So, I've never really been one. I don't think any of the Beat Junkies have ever been the type of DJs to alienate anybody for using a CDJ or a controller or a turntable. I think just turntables for us, that's just our preference because it's the tool we've been, using for so many years and we're most comfortable on it. And you're always going to get the best performance out of us using a turntable. But yeah, to anyone that can do, what you want to do, whether that's, beat juggling, trick mixing or whatever, you can do that on a controller, or you can, come on, do a sick, one turntable routine on a CDJ, then go for broke. Yeah. Hats off to you.
So to my friend DJ Cova, really appreciate you for asking my question, and to Melo D and DJ Babu, thank you so much for the answer. And thank you to Babu for the shout out. I love what you guys are doing at the Beat Junkies Institute of Sound. For those of you who don't know, that is their DJ school. In fact, one of their videos is how I learned to do an orbit after failing for 22 years on how to learn it. If you want to take a class on the art of DJing and the art of turntablism directly from the folks who molded the art form, check out the Beat Junkies. I love the fact that today they're sharing a lot of their secrets, a lot of their tips. And even after all my experience doing music for so many years, I still have things that I can learn. And check out their YouTube videos as well. All right, really appreciate everyone for watching. Thanks, take care, stay healthy. The force is with you always.